because you may not buy a house right away, but you might buy one in 5 years. And many times what people have done is they'll take a business card, throw it in their kitchen drawer, 5 years later, they'll pull it out. And there they have it, an attorney that they know from a seminar that they went to many, many years ago. The cell phone is the only thing working, and it turns out you can still get a hold of someone that you work with for LUCHA. I'm going to hand out a couple cards to these people. And this one. The good news is they were all in a holder, so they're fresh and not crinkled. Many times they don't make it so good. Let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do today. I'm an attorney. I represent folks in real estate closings all the time. I've worked with LUCHA for nearly 10 years. And in those 10 years, I've done a lot of different closings for folks that have come from LUCHA. Some are condos, some are homes, some are refurbished homes, some are shack closings where there's big subsidies for people getting off of welfare and living in subsidized housing for their first home. Some of the closings have been straightforward closings. We've even had closings where people have bought business space with the home, typical pre-flat with the first floor being commercial. So there's all sorts of things you can do with the knowledge you gain today. In 15 minutes, what we're going to do is empower you with the basic legal issues that come up in a closing so that you, one, know what is going to be happening, two, know how to hire an attorney, and three, have a good idea, even if it's 5 years from now, of what a good rate should be so that you're getting good value, not necessarily just getting the lowest price, but getting someone that knows what they're doing. So let's take a look at our brochures here. We'll open them up. This is basically just a quick outline of the things we want to cover. If you take a look at the first part, it's why would you use an attorney in the first place? If you're buying the largest asset that you're probably ever going to own, and it's pushing your financial system to its edge, and you don't have a lot of extra money, why would you spend an extra $500 with an attorney? And the answer to that is, the first one is protecting your earnest money. If you've only got $1,000 down on a contract, that's not such a big deal. It's a big deal, but it's not a huge deal. But if you're buying new construction is $10,000 or $20,000 down, that's a big deal. And it's going to take a long time to resave that money if you lose it for no good reason in the transaction. So right there, that's a good reason to always have an attorney whenever you're involved in a real estate transaction. Because they're going to be holding all those contingencies open so that if you don't get your loan, you can get out and look for a place that's either cheaper or different, or maybe a place that needs less repairs. One of my clients one time bought a house that had a bad roof. 3 weeks later, they had a big rainstorm, and the new kitchen was destroyed. That one didn't work out as good as they would have liked. Now, the other thing an attorney does is the boring stuff, auditing the transaction. Unfortunately, this is where all the money is. Tax credits, getting overcharged for title, other charges that shouldn't be there, repair credits, credits for closing costs, all the good stuff. Boring beyond belief, that's why we hire accountants to do our taxes, but very important, because that's what makes the difference between coming out of a closing with no money in our pocket or coming out of a closing ready to make our first mortgage and feel great about it. The third thing we want to talk about is negotiating changes in the contract. One of the weird things about Illinois, we are a very weird state. We're one of only 8 states left that use the very old form of how real estate is conveyed. That's why attorneys are involved in Illinois. In many states, they're not as involved. The bottom line is that we have something called attorney review. It doesn't even have to be in your contract to allow it. What that means is when you're out searching for a property, the only thing you've got to worry about when you sign that contract quickly to make an offer is that the address is right, your name is right, you sign the contract, and the price is what you're comfortable with. It's the only thing you can't change. You cannot change the price, but you can change everything else in it, an attorney review. Do we want to change everything in a contract? Not really. That's a mess. But what we do sometimes do is we might ask for repairs. We might ask to get the property a few days later after the closing and let the seller move out. We might do things that would involve changing the terms of your loan so that if you don't get the loan that's as good as you want, for example, the interest rate you want, you're not stuck buying a property with a subprime loan. There's other things too. What if your closing date isn't right? What if you're not closing soon enough to be in the school district you want to be in? What if you're going to close August 16th, but your school district wants you there August 15th? Those are the kind of things we do an attorney review. Here's here's what we don't do. We don't try and reinvent the wheel and figure out whether it's a good value or not. We try to make sure the contract does what you thought it was going to do. That's very important. Your realtor is an absolute master at getting into the property and finding the right price. They are the very best at that. They know everything that's going on. An attorney never second guesses that. But what an attorney does is takes the back end of that contract to something that's boring. Like, for example, making sure that you get the right tax credits, that you get the right kind of title, that somebody buys you a survey, so you know that your neighbor's fence, for example, isn't running on your land. Or another really light one we had recently was an air conditioner, by the way, no one seemed to know about, that appears to be on the neighbor's land, but is very important for cooling the house and can't go anywhere else. Those are the kind of things that we try to avoid, and for the most part, we do. But it just goes to show you that when you're buying a house or a condo or any piece of property, it is tricky. Real estate closings are simple. You're buying a house. But what isn't simple is that 10 pages of stuff that sits in the back of the contract. And an attorney can chop that down in about 5 minutes, but for somebody that doesn't practice law, it won't be very difficult. So those are the things that we do in terms of hiring an attorney. Any questions before we move to the next section? Okay. Well, at least nobody's fallen asleep. And the law can be pretty dry and pretty boring. But when you've got LUCHA coffee on your side, you're in good shape. Now, and I drank a lot of LUCHA coffee. Okay, let's talk about what to do when the seller accepts your offer. It's just like a sport playing basketball. If somebody passes the ball to you, you better catch it, throw it to the basket. Bottom line is, when the seller accepts your offer, tell your realtor to get that contract faxed within 1 business day to your attorney, so they don't lose any time and they can make all those attorney review requests, repair requests, and everything, and not fall out of the time limits that are in your contract. Some of the older contracts have a 3 business day limit. I don't see those contracts too often anymore. Nearly all are 5 business days. So the reality is, you want to do it the next business day, but if it takes you 2, the good news is you got enough time. Let's talk about the most common areas that are negotiated in a contract. This is attorney review, guys. This is the stuff that you'll hear a lot about that maybe doesn't make a lot of sense when people talk about it. Here's the stuff that we modify in contracts all the time. The one I talked about the most was the closing date. If that closing date doesn't work for you, you got to close sooner, or you need extra time to close, say for example 2 months, so that you can get a very particular type of loan or something put together. We can modify that attorney review. Here's why the closing date is so critical. If I want to delay my closing by 1 month, that seller has to pay the interest on that loan for an additional month. On average, that's about $1,800. That's a lot of money. If you ask for that at attorney review, they don't want to lose that deal, right? So they'll move it for free. If you ask for that after attorney review, they'll agree with it. They'll also make you pay the $1,800. That's why it's important, even though it's not real difficult. Let's talk about possession. This just came up recently in a disastrous closing that should not have been a disaster, but we had some selfish parties who weren't thinking about getting things done the right way. And basically what happened was they decided they wouldn't move out and allow the buyers to have possession. And that didn't suit the buyers very well. The buyers were smart. They had an excellent attorney who says, I'll take $2,500 in my client trust account and bill you $100 a day for rent. And then we don't get screwed over and we're going to be fine. Why is that? Because the day that you buy your house, if somebody's in there, you just became their landlord. And now you've got to evict them if they don't want to go in a friendly manner. Guess what? If that seller's going under, we don't know that all the time. They're going to stay there as long as they can because they have nowhere to go. How often does that happen? How often does somebody really give a security deposit to be able to stay in the house? Any guesses? Take 100 closings. How many of those 100 closings do you think somebody did that? In my experience over the lifetime of my practice, which is pretty long, about 20 years, I only had 2 that actually did it. That's a lot of closings where it didn't happen. How many people proposed to them? At least 3 out of 100. So that is something that you wouldn't think would be a scam, but is important. And by the way, you don't have to ask for somebody's permission to watch for that. You can look for that and empower yourself to look out for those kind of fast dealings. Expirations. By the way, that doesn't happen very often, but it's good to know about. Expirations, this is the most valuable one on your contract. Here's why. In Illinois, we pay our taxes a year after they're due. So that means when you buy your house, the seller still owes you your taxes. That means they should have paid that bill. Why don't they pay it? Because nobody gave them a bill to pay, so they can't pay the taxes. Well, Could they give you a bunch of money to put in a savings account and you could pay the taxes for them? Sure, you could do that. What happens in Illinois is instead, they give you that amount at closing as a credit to you, which reduces how much money you have to bring to closing. And the only issue is, did they give you enough money as the credit? Did they give you enough money to cover the taxes? Right now, it's not a big deal, but in the days when taxes used to increase by 15 or 20% a year during the housing boom, it was a big deal. So the bottom line is, right now it's about calculating the credit, making sure your attorney has their head on it. If you're ever in a situation where the tax values are going up a lot, and ask around, you'll find out. That's when you want to make sure you've got a lot of extra money coming, not just when the taxes are next year. Any decent attorney who knows what they're doing will be able to do that in their head without a doubt. Okay, the mortgage contingency. This is a big one sometimes. Right now it's not a big deal, because most loans are FHA. Your interest rate's going to right now be about 4.5%. Might be higher, might be lower, but it's all market-based and it's all run by the government. In days when we had more private financing about 5 to 10 years ago, it's a very big deal. Our interest rates were varying anywhere from about 4 up to 12%. By the way, 12% is a very, very high interest rate on real estate. So the bottom line is what we do in a mortgage contingency is make sure that the type of loan you're getting is what you thought. That when the loan officer says, I'm going to get you a loan for 5%, it's going to be this payment, it's going to be great if you can afford it, that you're not forced to buy the property when the loan officer says you only qualify after investigating your credit for an 8% loan, and it's a payment you can't afford. Here's the deal. You're in the closing, but now you can get out and you can either look for a cheaper house or wait till your income comes up a bit and go back on for housing, and all you've lost is maybe several $100 in some costs, but you haven't lost thousands, and you haven't lost all your earnest money, and you're ready to go for another time. The record is 4. I had a client do it 4 times in a period of 4 months, and the 4th house was a winner, and I really liked it, so it's still there. Okay, repairs. This is a real doozy because everything's old. In the state of Chicago, everything is so old that sometimes you find houses that are actually below the level of the street because about 100 years ago, they raised the whole city about 12 feet to make sure we weren't in the slump that was originally here. And so, the bottom line is, repairs are a big part of a house unless it's brand new construction. What kind of repairs do you care about? Electric, sewer, roof, and here's the really weird one, structures and foundation. Here's the bottom line, almost everything in Chicago can be fixed. Once in a while, and I had a house recently that was bowing out in the middle, you have to walk away from the house. And in that case, the buyer still didn't walk away from the house, and I think that was a bad idea. But that's not my choice to make. The bottom line is, in Chicago, the stuff is so old, they can find those kind of crazy things. So you're always going to want to get a home inspection. Why? Because they can shake down a house in 2 hours in a way that none of us can do. They'll know where everything is wrong. For example, in my house, I have sewer vents that don't work well. It's not something I would have found. It's kind of why you need a home inspection. What I recommend is that you request all the repairs, but that isn't the only way to do it. It depends on the circumstances of the price, which your realtor believes. By the way, this is another area where your realtor is an absolute master. They have a good idea of what the house needs to be in condition for loans. That's something that they have a gut feeling about, and that's why we work with MSP all the time. Let's talk about personal property. Personal property is very important, but it's not usually a big deal. If you're getting a stove, a refrigerator, and a couple of other appliances in the house, that's no big deal. They're actually called fixtures. They're considered a part of the real estate eventually, and those pieces of property can be included on the contract. Why is it important? Because if it's a stainless steel refrigerator that they try to make you to offer full price for, you want to specify that you want that stainless steel refrigerator. Here's what you can't do. You can't buy furniture for the house. How crazy is that? Wouldn't it be great if we could just buy all the furniture from these folks and throw it into our mortgage and everything would be fine? Here's the problem. You can't take a mortgage on all that furniture, and so the bank ends up making a loan that isn't done properly when you buy a